and thank you for joining me today for part 2 of our study, The Wheels of Time, the Camp and Tabernacle as Design. So make sure you pull your books out, because we're going to continue where we left off in part 1, where we had covered the wheel in a wheel and set up the Hebrew wilderness camp by placing the different quadrants. Then we talked a little bit about Eden and how it is a year garden. It is the place of Yahuwah's dwelling and his Moedim. So we're going to pick up right where we left off and start talking about the Great Mathematician. The concept of time as a circle is an ancient one. Many things in nature occur in recurring cycles. Days, tides, seasons, and years are all cyclic in nature. Aloha surrounds us with these circular patterns. In the animal world, we see patterns which are regulated by the circuit of the seasons. For example, molting, hibernation, and mating. These all follow distinctive patterns that repeat in Aloha's creation. It stands to reason, then, that man's environment and lifestyle would also naturally occur in cyclic patterns, too. A clock is not a timeline, but a circle, for the simple reason that time does not begin or end. In the same fashion, years and months are also circular. The history of mankind is the intertwining circles of generations who live and die, and nations that rise and fall, time and time again. King Solomon, who was blessed with great wisdom, tells us that there is nothing new under the sun, that all things repeat in cycles. Ecclesiastes 1, starting with verse 5. The sun also arises and the sun goes down and hurries to its place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south and it turns around to the north. It whirls around continually and the wind returns on its circuits. All the rivers run to the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from where the rivers come, there they return again. Verse 9, that which has been is that which shall be. And that which has been done is that which shall be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Verse 4, a generation passes away, and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. Both space and time exist as circles. The Hebrew language uses the same word, yom, for both space and time. Throughout the universe, there is an infinite number of circles, some small, and some large. The most obvious of these extremes are the orbits of atoms and solar systems. This circular pattern is key to all life. We begin in the womb as one small circular cell, and then split into two. Voila! Life. Although the cell is more like an orb, the circle is the one-dimensional representation of an orb. Aloha's division of days are circular, which could be thought of as the calendar of life. We are charged to walk a circular procession from one moed appointed time to the next. In fact, that's what the 3 feast days are called. The Hog feast days, the Pilgrim, the circular feast days. So we are charged to walk in this circular procession of these feast days, of these moed, these appointed times, from one to the next. And it is then that we are in his presence and find the peace and rest that he promised. Only when we are in these appointed times with him do we receive that blessing of peace and rest. By knowing and understanding his circular times, we are given the blessing of his covenant. The number 7 is a completion of a cycle of time. We are commanded to cease from working and rest every 7th day. This is the precedence. A week, Shabbat, means to complete, to seven oneself, which means to swear as if by repeating a declaration 7 times, or an oath. When we intertwine 7 circles together, we get a geometrical symbol known as the seed of life, or the Genesis pattern, depicting the 7 days of creation. The egg of life is also a symbol composed of 7 circles taken from the design of the flower of life. The shape of the egg of life is said to be the shape of the multicellular embryo in its first hours of creation. The flower of life pattern has been used throughout the world in all major religions. It is considered so sacred to the ancients that it was kept secret by the priests and holy men of their time. This structure forms the basis for music, as the distance between the spheres is identical to the distance between the tones and the halftones in music. All the harmonics of light, sound, and music exist within this geometric structure, defining the shape of both atoms and galaxies alike. The fruit of life symbol is composed of 13 circles, also taken from the design of the flower of life. Eloah formed the Hebrew wilderness camp out of 13 tribes. The fruit of life is said to be the blueprint of the universe, containing the basis for the design of every atom, molecular structure, life form, and everything in existence. It contains the geometric basis for the delineation of Metatron's cube. Now, don't get all excited that I mentioned Metatron's cube. We're talking mathematics here, which brings forth the Platonic solids. Now, Platonic solids are 3-dimensional shapes with identical, regular, polygonal faces. A cube, for instance, is the most simple of the Platonic solids. Very basic. And no, I am not a Kabbalist, but as with many ancient teachings and traditions, there are portions of truth that we can glean from. So let us take a look at what we can harvest from this field to see how it relates to the bigger picture. So we are going to talk about Metatron, but just where we can use this information to further our knowledge. And Metatron is from the Greek meta plus tron, meaning beyond the matrix. Maybe this is why people want it hidden. So he is an angel in Judaism and some branches of Christianity and Islamic tradition, Metatron. And Metatron's Latin name is Metator, meaning a guide or measurer, as in creational geometry. Some say he is an archangel, as in arcs and angles of geometry. He is also referred to in many ancient texts as a teacher and scribe. And as the story goes, when Enoch ascended to heaven, he was given the name Metatron and became Elohah's great scribe and record keeper. It is believed he is the keeper of the Book of Life. In the book, The Revelation of Moses, Heaven, Hell, and Paradise, we see Enoch, who is now known as Metatron, being sent by the Most High to give guidance to Moses. And we read in chapter 1, verse 1, "As the apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons." This applies to Moses, upon whom be peace. Verse 2, "In that hour when Eloah said unto him, Go and bring out the children of Israel from Egypt, for I have heard their groaning, and I remembered the covenant and the oath I swore to Abraham my servant. Moses said, O Lord of the universe, who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh, that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And Eloah said, Thou hast humbled thyself in saying, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? But I will honor thee, as it is said, He that is of lowly spirit shall obtain honor, and I will give the whole of Egypt into thy hands, and I will bring thee up even near to my throne of glory. And I will show thee the angels of the heaven. Whereupon Eloah commanded Metatron, the angel of his presence, and said unto him, Go and bring Moses with harps and pipes and drums and dances with joy and songs and praise. Verse 3, And Metatron answered and said, O Lord of the universe, Moses is not able to come up and see the angels, for there are angels who are of fire, and he is only of flesh and blood. And the Elohah said, Go and change his flesh into fire. And Metatron went to Moses. Verse 5, And Moses beheld Metatron, and he trembled with fear. And he said to him, Who art thou? And he answered, I am Enoch, the son of Jared, thy father's father. The Almighty hath sent me to bring thee up to his throne of glory. And the glory of Elohah abode on Mount Sinai, and a cloud overshadowed it 6 days. And he called Moses on the 7th day out of the midst of the cloud. And the appearance of the glory of Elohim was like a flaming fire on the top of the mount. And Moses was on the mount 40 days and 40 nights. And Elohim taught him the earlier and latter history of the division of all the days. The translated word God in the King James Bible is Elohim, a plural, which can also mean angels. And then Exodus gives us an insight to the afterglow of Moses' experience. And it happened as Moses was going down from Mount Sinai, the 2 tablets of the testimony being in Moses' hand, as he went down the mountain. Moses did not know that the skin of his face had become luminous through his speaking with him. And Aaron and all the sons of Israel saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face had become luminous, and they were afraid to draw near to him. Verse 33, And Moses finished speaking with them, and he put a veil on his face. So the Apostle Paul confirms that it was indeed the angels who gave the law to Moses. When Stephen rebuked the Jewish authorities in Jerusalem for going against the law, he said they were those in Acts 7:53 who received the law through disposition of angels and did not keep it. So the fact that angels gave the law to Moses and he gave it to the people. Exodus 3:2, And the angel of Elohah appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a thorn bush. And he looked, and behold, the thorn bush burned with fire, and the thorn bush was not burned up. Acts 7:34, This Moses, whom they refused, saying, Who made you a ruler and judge? Aren't we just so disobedient? Elohah has sent this one to be a ruler and redeemer by the hand of the angel who appeared to him in the bush. Exodus 23:20, Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way. To keep you in the way. The angels are keeping you where you're supposed to go. They're guiding you. And to bring you to the place which I have prepared. Be on guard before him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him, or he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. We can see the connection between Enoch, Metatron, and the very elements of Elohah's creation, which synchronize time, space, and the set times for meeting with the Most High. Enoch taught Moses. He was the angel on Mount Sinai. And what did Enoch teach Moses? What else but the Torah and the division of days, just as we read? Elohah's creation calendar. As I am often reminded, the closer we get to Elohah's truth, the more Ha-Satan, his Hebrew name is Hillel, has perverted it. He perverts everything. He twists everything of the Most High and perverts it. And we see this is true with sacred or creational geometry, as it has been abducted by the New Age revolution and those believing they can channel its energy. The simple truth of the matter is, it is all about the cycles and repeated patterns that Elohah uses in creating man, nature, space, and time. Eloah is the great mathematician using geometry in all creation. Another notable example of that, which may be derived from the flower of life, is the tree of life. Genesis 3:22. And Eloah said, Now lest he take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. Therefore Eloah sent him forth from the Garden of Eden. Revelation 22:1. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Eloah and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life. These verses promise everlasting life for those who realize the sanctified authority of the tree. For those given ears to hear will fully understand the life-giving nature of the tree of life through the exemplified powers on which Eloah's days written in the heavens operate. The tree of life, which bear 12 manner of fruit, it yields its fruit every month. All creation is based on the golden ratio. And we spoke about how the golden ratio is evident in the human body. And so it could also be said that the human body's tree of life is our DNA. The braided thread of the DNA helix is a ratcheted dodecahedron. So the helix is formed from 10 regular pentagons, oriented about a decagon. A complete turn of the helix is formed by progressive rotation and extension of the 10 regular prismatic pentagons. In more recent times, a theory has emerged that the universe could be a dodecahedron based on Phi. Phi, as I have mentioned before, is the basis for the golden ratio. Phi is simply the ratio of the line segments that result when a line is divided. So Phi appears in the geometry of the 5-sided pentagon. The square root of 5 is then the foundation of the golden ratio, and it is hidden in the stars. When a pentagon with 5 equal sides connects all the points, it forms a 5-pointed star. And you want to talk about Hallel perverting the truth of the Most High, the pentagram is a perfect example. When the pentagram figure is reversed or turned upside down, it is recognized as a symbol of black magic and satanic rituals. And even I was hesitant to go down this road at first, but the connection of the pentagram and Phi to the camp and tabernacle construction was too overwhelming not to share. Cosmologists in the United States and France are now suggesting that space itself could be finite and shaped like a dodecahedron. They claim that a universe with the same shape as the 12-sided polygon can explain measurements of the cosmic microwave background. Jeffrey Weeks, a freelance mathematician and recipient of the MacArthur Fellowship, or, quote, Genius Award, unquote, along with a team of French cosmologists, used data to develop a model for the shape of the universe. The study analyzed a variety of different models, including finite versus infinite, flat, negatively curved, and positively curved. So they looked at all these different shapes of how they thought space could be shaped. And the study revealed that the math adds up that the universe is finite and shaped like a dodecahedron. But Weeks cautioned that his team's model of a finite, dodecahedral-shaped universe, while promising, is hardly a proven theory as of yet. And he says, quote, "There's more work to be done. It could be affirmed or it could be refuted. What makes it exciting now is that it's not a matter of idle speculation. There's real data to look at and the possibility of getting a definite answer," unquote. Jean-Pierre Luminet of the Observatoire de Paris and colleagues believe in the predictions of the model in which space consists of 12 curved pentagons joined together in a sphere. A spherical dodecahedron would look like a soccer ball. Plato used a dodecahedron as the essence to describe the cosmos. The dodecahedron is the last and considered most harmonious of Plato's 5 Platonic solids. According to Plato, the dodecahedron corresponds to the universe as the 12 constellations on the zodiac belt parallel with the 12 faces of the dodecahedron. Of the dodecahedron, Plato obscurely remarked, quote, "God used it for arranging the constellations on the whole heaven," unquote. Plato also says, quote, "The earth, if to look at it from above, is similar to the ball consisting of 12 skin pieces," unquote. Luca Pacioli, Italian mathematician and Franciscan friar and collaborator with Leonardo da Vinci, devotes the second part of his book, published around 1509, to the Platonic solids. He writes, quote, "As God brought into being the celestial virtue, the fifth essence, and through it created the 4 solids, so our sacred proportion gave shape to heaven itself, in assigning to it the dodecahedron, the solid of 12 pentagons, which cannot be constructed without our sacred proportion," unquote. Therefore, the great mathematician patterned the Hebrew camp after the universe. So now let's talk a little bit more about Phi've and Phi. Phi was described by Johannes Kepler as one of the, quote, 2 great treasures of geometry, unquote. The other is the theorem of Pythagoras. The appearance of the Golden Ratio, or Fibonacci series as it's called, in examples of fivefold symmetry occur because Phi itself is intrinsically related to the number 5, mathematically and trigonometrically. 5 is the 5th of the Fibonacci numbers, including 0, 1, 2, 3, and 5, followed by 8, 13, 21, 34, and so on. Now, as I mentioned before, the design of the human body is based on Phi in relation to its proportions. There's 5 appendages from the torso. We have a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs. 5 appendages on each leg and arm, with our 5 fingers and 5 toes. 5 openings on the head. We have 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and a mouth. And the 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. Now, if we look at a human in frontal outline form, we see 5 appendages extending from the central body trunk: the head, the arms, and the legs. A perfect pentagon around the figure can be superimposed. Within that pentagon, we can inscribe a 5-pointed pentagram. We have in this fivefoldness a number and geometric shape with profound and multi-layered meaning. When the pentagram is represented upright, with the 2 feet points on the ground, 2 arm points extended to the side, and the head point in the principal position toward the heaven, embodies the spiritual man. Man and woman symbolically signified by the number 5. This pentagram layout of the Levite camps, it would then appear to be the template of mankind within the dodecagon universe. It is said that man is born of the stars. Within the 5 extremities of his torso and his 5 material senses, he is a living example of the geometric symbol of the star. The golden ratio is represented in the structure of many living organisms and physical processes, such as the distribution of leaves on a plant, spiral seashells, flower petals, the ratio of male to female bees in a hive, the DNA molecule, the surface pattern of a pine cone, the cochlear of the human ear, spiral galaxies, and the planetary orbit of Venus as seen from Earth. Which leads us right to Venus. So after completing the camp placement into the time wheel, first thing I noticed is the camps of the Levites resembled the Venus rose cycle, also known as the Venus pentagram. So at first we noticed that we have this phi, right? So the Levites are laid out in these 5 camps where we have our head, our 2 arms, and our 2 legs. So we already are encompassing the golden ratio with this layout of the Levites. But then that's when I noticed that, because I had been doing some research on Venus, and so Venus was already fresh in my thought process when I saw this. And it definitely looked like the Venus rose, the Venus cycle. And out of all the stars mentioned in the Bible, Venus is the only wandering star spoken of that is connected to prophecy. Of Venus, Peter writes in 2 Peter 1:19, quote, "And we have the prophetic word confirmed, which you will do well to heed as a light that shines in a dark place, until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts." Unquote. So the light that shines in the dark is Venus as the evening star. Until the day dawns and the morning star, which is also Venus, rises in your heart. This is a parable about Hasatan and the Messiah and the return of the Messiah. And because Venus is one of the wandering stars, it is referred to as the shepherd's star. Job speaks of Venus in Job 38:32. And it says, "Will you open Mazaroth in its time, and Hesperus with its tail will you lead?" So Hesperus is the evening star. The morning star is called Phosphorus. The same verse in the Douay Rheims Bible points us directly to Venus. It doesn't hide this fact. Job 38:32, "Can thou bring forth the day star in his time, and make the evening star to rise upon the children of the earth?" After the sun and moon, Venus is the brightest light in the heavens. It is called by, as I said, the name Hesperus as the evening star, and the morning star Phosphorus, which means the bringer of light. Now the Septuagint renders the Hebrew word Hallel or Halel in Greek as Heosphorus, or bringer of dawn, the ancient Greek name for the morning star. Now, Aquila of Sinope derives the word Hallel from the verb yalel, meaning to lament. This was adopted as the proper name for Lucifer, who laments the loss of his former beauty. At one time, Hallel was called the morning star. Isaiah 14, verses 12 and 13. How you have fallen from heaven, O Hallel. That's Hebrew 1966. O morning star, son of the dawn, you have been thrown down to the earth, you who destroyed the nations of the world. But it seems as though he lost that designation to the Messiah, Yehoshua. Revelation 2, verses 26. And the one overcoming and the one keeping my works until the end, I will give to him authority over the nations. And he will shepherd them with an iron staff. They are broken to pieces like clay vessels, as I have also received from my Father. And I will give to him the morning star. Revelation 22:16. I, Yehoshua, am the one who sent my angel to tell all of you these things for the ecclesia. I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. Revelation 22, verse 16 says that the anointed first son is the root and offspring of David, the bright and morning star. Thus, the planet Venus is a metaphor for the return of the Messiah, confirmed in 2 Peter 1:19 and the Venus prophecy. This reoccurring event of the pentagram within the wilderness camp's design replicates the movements of Venus. The Venus cycle creates a cosmic heartbeat. Since being one of the brightest lights in the heavens, Venus's cycle was well known and of great interest to ancient peoples, playing a crucial role in ancient calendars and time-keeping systems. As seen from Earth, Venus doesn't cross the night sky as the slower-moving planets appear to do. Instead, it can be seen only near sunrise and sunset, moving from morning star to evening star and back again, every 584 days, or about 18 months. Venus orbits the Sun in 224.695 days, while the Earth orbits the Sun in 365.242 days, creating a ratio of 8:13, both Fibonacci numbers, or 0.615, roughly Phi. Thus, 5 conjunctions of Earth and Venus occur every 8 orbits of the Earth around the Sun and every 13 orbits of Venus. During these 8 years, Venus will have undergone 5 retrograde phases. When a planet is retrograde, it appears to be moving backwards from our perspective on Earth. Venus spends almost 9 months, the same amount of time it takes to gestate human life, as a morning star. We will also find that this ties into the linen curtains which surrounds the interior of the tabernacle. Venus then travels 50 days behind the Sun, making her triumphant return as the evening star for another 9 months. This is where Venus is connected to a woman's fertility cycle. It takes 18 months for this wandering star to complete one full point of her pentagram. 5 Levite camps mimic Venus's 5 retrograde periods through the 8-year journey back to the same stars. Remember, 5 is tied to the stars. The Mayans of Central America relied not only on the sun and moon, but also the planet Venus to establish a 260-day and a 365-day calendar. This culture and its related predecessors spread across Central America between 2600 BC and 1500 AD, leaving celestial cycle records. They were brilliant when it came to tracking the heavens. So that's going to bring us to the number 52. Now, as I've mentioned before, everything in the heavens and on earth is tied together mathematically. The Book of Jubilees and Enoch indicate that there are exactly 4 quarters of 13 weeks per year. Jubilee 6:29 through 31. And they placed them on the heavenly tablets. Each had 13 weeks. From one to another passed their memorial. Now, these memorials would be the leaders at the head of each quarter, which are also the memorials of Noah. They're the quarter leaders, not the intercalary days. I had a discussion with a gentleman not too long ago about that. A lot of people think that these heads are the intercalary days, and they are not. They are the heads of the quarters, different star leaders. From the first to the second, and from the second to the third, and from the third to the fourth quarters. And all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days, and these will make the entire year. Thus it is engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablets, and there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year, or from year to year complete. Okay, so one question I always had in my mind is, what is this year that Jubilees is talking about? So, because given that the solar year is 365.24 days, this 364-day year, then, can only be the one that was established in the garden at the time of Adam's creation before the flood. This is the one given to Enoch. Has to be this calendar of creation. 52 weeks times 7 days is 364 days. And 52 is a decagonal number. In geometry, the decagon is a polygon with 10 sides and 10 angles, also known as a tengon. It can be several 10-sided shapes, for example, a 5-pointed star. 5 points, 10 sides. The term decagon is derived from the Latin word decagonum. Deca is 10, and gonium means angles. If we draw a regular decagon in a circle, the ratio of a side of a decagon to the radius of the circle forms the golden ratio. A circle that passes through all 10 points of the regular decagon is a circumscribed circle, or a circumcircle. Another circle that passes through the midpoints of all 10 decagon edges is called an inscribed circle or an incircle. The circumcircle and incircle determine the circumference of the decagon. So, again, a wheel in a wheel. We will soon discover another similar wheel in a wheel configuration when we wrap the outside of the tabernacle's frame with the mohair curtains and line the inside of the frame with the linen curtains. One other thing that intrigued me about the division of the decagon is that in the instructions for the tabernacle's frame, there are 8 support ribs and 1 center bar that goes from the east end to the west end. Hence, they create 10 spokes from the center crown. Once erected, the frame will look much like this graphic of the decagon. And next we're going to talk about the number 13, because it is 13 tribes that we're dealing with. And the Hebrew camp layout embodies the 4 quarters of Genesis' 364-day year. I say Genesis because that's the creation week. This was the creation calendar. The 13-week quarters of the 364-day year are broken down as month 1 having 4 weeks. Month 2 always has 5 weeks, and month 3, 4 weeks. And Enoch goes on to tell us that the months in those quarters are counted as 30, 30, 31 days. We have the extra day at the end of the quarter, which is the intercalary day. It's at the end, 30, 30 plus 1. It's the last day of the quarter. And then we have a new head of quarter leader the following day. It is these intercalary days at the end of each quarter that are witness to the Earth's tilt. How's that, you ask? It is believed that the Earth at one time had a 360-day year in the very beginning, when the Earth was perfect and upright. This was the time before the fall of Hillel and the Genesis restoration. Revelation 12 verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out. Now this word means throw, thrust, so he was thrust out. The ancient serpent, the one being called devil and Satan, the one misleading the entire inhabitable world, was thrown to the earth, and his angels were thrown with him. Luke 10:18, and he said to them, I saw Satan falling out of heaven as lightning. Psalms 89:10, you have broken Rahab in pieces as one slain. You have scattered your enemies with your mighty arm. Now the planet Rahab was thought to be Hillel's home among the fiery stones, which was destroyed when he was cast, that is, deliberately hurled to the earth. It is believed that it is the destruction of Rahab that created the asteroid belt and caused gigantic pieces of debris to smash into the earth, as well as other planets like Mars and Venus. We've all seen pictures of the large scar on the surface of Mars. Venus's whole rotation was reversed. Venus actually rotates opposite of the other planets. This hit moved our planet enough off its axis to gain the 4 days that Enoch refers to as the intercalary days. The 360-day year is referred to as a prophetic year, also an apocalyptic year. Because not only was the Earth's year 360 days in the beginning of the ages, it is believed that it will return to 360 days at the end of the ages. When the Messiah returns and there is a new heaven and a new earth, all will be restored to an upright and perfect position. 13 songs are found in the Dead Sea Scrolls called the Songs of the Sabbath Sacrifice, also known as the Angelic Liturgy. These 13 songs were sung corporately throughout a 13-week cycle each quarter. I do find it interesting how much Hillel has actually corrupted the number 13. How many people are extra careful when the 13th of the month lands on a Friday, or buildings that skip numbering a 13th floor? And yet, we see this number over and over again in the cycles of the heavens. The Levites, being the camp's 13th tribe, mirrors the moon's 13 circuits around the earth, and Venus's 13 circuits around the sun, as well as the 13th zodiac constellation Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. 13 tribes, 13 Sabbaths, just another cog in the wheels of time camp. Like the second hand on a clock, the tribes tick off the Sabbaths of the year, 1 quarter at a time. 364 days was the length of the year up until the days of Enoch and Noah. Then great earthquakes began to happen as the earth prepared for the waters of the deep to rise and flood the planet. These actions tilted the earth further off its axis, as mentioned in Enoch 65 verse 1, increasing the solar cycle another day plus a quarter each year, culminating into a full other extra day every 4 years, or what we call the leap year. This extra day is witnessed at the autumnal equinox when it arrives a day later in the 4th year. These are the days spawned due to sin of men after the creation of Adam. So every 4th year, the equinox in the fall arrives a day later than it does the previous 3 years. And this marks the leap year. This was caused due to the sin of Adam, and eventually Yahuwah floods the earth and causes it to tilt, causing this extra day, this day that was not a part of the original calendar, the day out of time, and an additional day every 4 years. That is marked at, as I said, the autumnal equinox, making for 2 days out of time every 4th year. It wasn't created with time at creation, the creation week. We can see how time has changed, and even today, we still have even microseconds added to our rotational clock due to large earthquakes. And that has affected our planet's rotation. And so this still goes on today, but this was a big rotational change due to this tilt. And Job talks about this day created out of time and compares it to the night of his conception. Job 3, starting with verse 1. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed his day. Let the day perish in which I was born, and the night which said a man-child has been conceived. Verse 6. As for that night, let darkness seize it. Let it not be joined to the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. Well, if the year is 52 Sabbaths, Genesis tells us the week ends with the Sabbath, so we have 52 Sabbaths. After that, we have the time that was created from the tilt. It wasn't a part of the year. It wasn't a part of the months. And this is what Job was pointing out. Job understood that this day was not joined to the year nor counted in the months, and it was created. This was a day created because of the sin of man. He then parallels the night of his conception to the day outside of time. Job is implying that his conception was connected to the sin of men. That's what he's talking about here. This extra day was caused because of the sin of Adam, and his conception was born in that sin. The tilt producing additional days caused the creation Sabbath to be out of sync with the heavens. It could have been completely lost to man if it weren't for our Creator's mercy in allowing Enoch to send the information over to the New World with Noah.
We also find proof of the day out of time in the Dead Sea Scroll number 4Q 394, where the 12th month is mentioned.
We're going to go to fragment 2, column 1, and it reads, quote, on the 21st of it, a Sabbath. On the 28th of it, a Sabbath. In addition to it, the day after the Sabbath and the second day. Unquote. Note that the day after and the second day, if we look at the breakdown of the calendar, is talking about the days 365 and 366 after the creation year of 364 is completed. Fragments 3 through 7, column 1. The 28th of it, a Sabbath, in addition to it, are to be added, and the year is complete in 364 days. So the 28th of it, the Sabbath, that is the last Sabbath of the cycle. And then it says, in addition to it are to be added. Well, it'll be added 1 or 2 days, depending on which year it is. Somebody recently asked me how this affects the priestly order. And quite simply, it doesn't. These days were still sunrises and sunsets that were given a daily sacrifice. The daily prayers, the daily sacrifices were done on those days. What didn't happen is when the priests were counting the days, they gave no value to those 2 days. So they just simply were not given a value. Even though they were recognized, the priestly order still carried on, and they still did their duties. They just were not given value on the calendar. And then they knew if it was the leap year by the fall equinox or not, whether they had 1 or 2 days before the creation week began anew. So this is where we're going to conclude this part of the study, and we'll pick it up next time, starting with
the solar, lunar, and stellar wheels.
So if you have any questions so far, please feel free to contact me at remnantofthelight@gmail.com and our website, which is remnantofthelight.net. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, but make sure you share, because this is such an important study on the wheels of time and how our Creator set up his timepiece. Because if we don't follow the timepiece correctly, then we're not following the correct moedium. We're not in that garden of set times, the dwelling place of our Most High, where we want to be. So we'll continue this study next time. Until we meet again, I'm going to wish you Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.